What's going on, all you minties? Uncanny Omar here from Near Mint Condition, the home of collected editions. And join me today for your overview of the Doom Patrol by Gerard Way and Nick Derington Deluxe Edition from DC Comics. So let's go ahead and get started. And welcome back, everybody. So, this book has been out, I think, for a couple of weeks now, and I just got a copy of it in about a week ago, and I've been doing a lot of Dark Horse reading, and a lot of reading in general, and I finally got around to reading this. This was one of my most anticipated books of the year. I could not wait to read this. I had read the first trade paperback, and I thought, wait, this is Gerard Way. Surely it's going to get an absolute edition, so I'll just wait until that comes out. And I did, and here we are. So here we have some of the main characters, including some new characters, and of course some classic characters. Now whether they show up or not in the book, well, you can find out for yourself in case you're a fan of the Doom Patrol. Now this is part of the Young Animal line that DC started. It was right around, I think, 2016, right about towards the end of their New 52 era. So it's like a new imprint, and it's one of these things that's, I don't know if it takes place in continuity or not. I really do think at this point you can make up your own continuity, because even some writers and editors at DC don't even know what's continuity and what isn't. But I think this is still in continuity just based on some of the stories that Gerard Way touched upon. Now, here's what the spine looks like. That is a very colorful spine, and this magic ambulance right there, Doom Patrol, Gerard Way, Nick Derington being, of course, the co-creator of some of these characters here, and the Deluxe Edition, the DC logo down there. And then some of the characters again. You have Robot Man, Flex Mentallo, Crazy Jane, Negative Man, and introducing Casey Brink. They're the world's strangest superheroes, and in a comic this meta, they already know it. Now the book retails for $49.99. Being that it's a deluxe edition, it's definitely taller than your standard size trade paperbacks or hardcovers. So it's the size of an omnibus. So rest assured, it is still a deluxe edition. I mean, obviously it's not going to be as thick as an omnibus because, well, deluxe editions tend to be about 12, sometimes up to 18 issues. But then again, so can omnis be sometimes. And who's to say what is what anymore? Well, I guess except the publishers. All right, let's take a closer look at this, including the flaps right there, in there. I love the colors, the retro colors they're using in the back. One thing I noticed is that my dust jacket at least feels like it's made a little bit too big for my book. Not a big complaint, it's just something that I've noticed. Sometimes, dust jackets are misaligned. Sometimes they seem like they fit just right, and then sometimes they feel like they're a little bit loose. But this one here, in the longest time, it felt like it was just a little bit loose. I haven't had that happen in a long time. All right, let's look at the art on board. So again, new characters, classic characters, and all hell breaking loose. So we're going to be talking about the contents of the book and giving you pretty much the premise, what the pitch is. But when talking about Doom Patrol, I'm going to go ahead and tell you, it's going to be difficult. The same way that I dealt with Rachel Pollack, which, by the way, I had heard some really bad news recently, so thoughts and prayers with Rachel. She's a phenomenal creator, and just sucks, man. But yeah, much like her run on Doom Patrol, that omnibus, this one here, it's a freaking reading experience is all I can say. So even if I give you the pitch, it's not like I'm spoiling anything. I will stay away from things like returning characters that make a surprise return in here, or characters that die, characters that are back from the dead. I'm not going to go into detail about that or who comes back or anything. But I'm going to give you pretty much the pitch for like the first few issues, and there are some returning characters. So just in case, minor spoilers, even though it's Doom Patrol, you're going to be hella confused anyway. All right, let's dive in. Okay, so let's go ahead and crack this open. Doom Patrol, right here's the end sheets. Very thick end sheets. And Doom Patrol by Gerard Way and Nick Derington. I almost said created. And some Mike Allred artwork right here. So obviously Nick Derington is not the only artist on the book. The Deluxe Edition. So no table of contents. And we jump right into Doom Patrol issue number 1. So this contains Doom Patrol issues 1 through 12, and then Tales from Doom Patrol Nada, and Doom Patrol Weight of the Worlds 1 through 7. So this is all taking place around 2017 to 2019, 2020, I think is when Weight of the Worlds ended, because there was a little bit of a delay with the especially that last issue. Now, one thing you're going to see is that Milk Wars is not collected in here, which is a big disappointment because that's kind of where some characters change and some characters come back. So by the time you read Weight of the Worlds, it's a little bit like, oh, okay, it's kooky, it's weird, of course it's Doom Patrol. These characters came back without anybody saying anything. No, those stories actually took place in Milk Wars, which is a big crossover that actually, I'm really surprised they didn't collect it in here, because it was Gerard Way's idea to cross over known DC characters like the Justice League with kooky characters like the Young Animal characters, or of course the Doom Patrol characters. But it is available in trade paperback. I don't think it's available in hardcover. This book has 528 pages and retails for $49.99. So Gerard Way for the longest time has stated that he has been a fan of the Doom Patrol. That was his comic book, his first superhero comics that he started reading. And you can see a little bit of that, well, a lot of that in Umbrella Academy. Because not only is he the lead singer of course, My Chemical Romance. I say, of course, like most of us knew that. I didn't until I read Umbrella Academy. But he also wrote Umbrella Academy, created that book with Gabriel Ba. So it's not like he is a stranger to writing weird and strange characters if you're familiar with the world of Doom Patrol. And he really uses a lot of the stuff that Grant Morrison created in their run of Doom Patrol in here. So we do meet a brand new character. As we saw a little bit earlier on the cover, we are introduced to this character named Casey Bank, who's an ambulance driver. She's an EMT, and she's one hell of a driver. And a lot of weird things are going to start happening to her. And they all have something to do with the bigger story arc that's happening. Now, this is not linear. This is not in any way going to make any sense. If you're reading this for the first time and you're on issue 3, you're going to be like, what the hell's going on? Especially if you're not used to the way that Doom Patrol is written. But that's what I meant at the beginning. Like, much like Grant Morrison's run on Doom Patrol, or much like Rachel Pollack's run on Doom Patrol, it's not about really reading the book, but about experiencing these stories with these characters. I think that's wonderful, because if you're a fan of the old Doom Patrol stories, or what I like to call classic, I know they're not the original, but Grant Morrison's era, that's exactly what you're going to get here. And that's also a little bit of the downside to it, is that that's exactly what you're going to get here. They're not as dark, though. I will say that the stories that Gerard Way writes in here are not as dark as that of Grant Morrison's stories, because Grant Morrison told you crazy, kooky stories with insane characters like Danny the Street, and there was a lot of sadness and a lot of bad things that happened through their run. But here, it gives you a little bit of hope. I mean, not to say that there's anything bad or nothing bad happens through Gerard Way's run, but it does give you more hope, in a sense of almost like everything is going to be alright in the end. And that's what this gives you a little bit more than Grant Morrison's all doom kind of feeling that you get when reading their run. Alright, so how can I do a pitch? How can I even talk about this story without going into details? Because everything is so connected. Well, the very first thing I need to say, though, is that this, besides not collecting Milk Wars, is all complete. This is everything that Way wrote for Doom Patrol. So there's nothing after this particular story. Sure, there's room to come back, but I don't know at this point if he will. Now, Doom Patrol is a series of characters that have been around since the 60s, 1963 as a matter of fact. They are characters with extraordinary abilities, all led by the Chief, Niles Calder. So the original team was Elastigirl, Negative Man, and Robot Man, and then later on, characters like Beast Boy and Mento joined. But yeah, 1963, the same year that another team with extraordinary abilities was formed. Of course, I'm talking about the X-Men, but that's another story. Back to this. So this is kind of like, let's get the band back together again. But whenever we're dealing with crazy characters, it has to be done in a very unique way, and that's what the character of Casey Brink brings us, is a unique way of bringing back these old school characters. Yes, she does have ties to a previous Doom Patrol member. Yes, things are about to change. And really what it comes down to is this particular group of aliens known as the Vector. So the Vector, maybe it's the Vectra. Sorry, maybe it's Vectra. Uh, but they want to capture an old Doom Patrol member and tear away their body to make them into food. And that's all I will say about that, because that's kind of these stories that you're going to be reading about. These particular characters that you're familiar with from the Doom Patrol. And of course, you're going to have a group of aliens that want to get rid of one of their bodies and make it into food. So in here, I'm sure as I'm flipping through these pages, you've noticed that Robot Man is back. That's right, but he's not the only one that makes a comeback. There are other characters that come back through here, like Flex Mentalo, Crazy Jane, and Negative Man. Now, those are the only ones I will say. There are other characters that make cameos. There are new characters that may surprise you who they are. And there are returning characters. And that's, as I mentioned a little bit earlier, that was the downside to this particular deluxe edition, is that it doesn't contain the Milk Wars, where a couple of these characters came back. So by the time you're reading the third arc, they're already part of the story. So are you going to see Professor Niles in here? Well, maybe. But those are the characters I will say that do show up. Are there any villains from the past that show up? That's another big maybe. Now, this is the issue number 7, which has artwork not just by Mike Allred, but a couple of other artists, including Derington. And it's a kind of throwback story. So in here, you're going to see all kinds of crazy stories. And if you feel confused, that's completely normal. Things are supposed to be experienced and not explained right away. Now, I will say, if you're halfway through the book and you're still completely lost, just maybe Doom Patrol may not be for you if this is your first attempt at trying to read the stories featuring those characters, because that's just the way those characters are written. And I think, as I mentioned before, Gerard Way does a phenomenal job of capturing that magic. Oh, is this the copyright upon withheld due to copyright? That was a pretty interesting character that shows up through here. And of course, that's got to do with licensing characters and why they can't be used. And actually, the Milk Wars would have been pretty cool to contain it, because it talks about the whole retcon idea. What is retcon? Alright, now we've looked enough through here. I think you get the idea of what the artwork looks like. Now, the third act is the one that I have a problem showcasing any of the artwork from, because, like I said, there are some returning characters that I don't want to spoil. So let me see if I can find a couple pages, because those aren't drawn by Derington. By that point, he had already stepped away from the book. Alright, so here's just a couple of pages. So, the third act really features a lot of artwork from Tom Fowler, Doc Shaner, Nick Patara, Becky Cloonan doing one freaking awesome story in here that ties back to stories not just from Grant Morrison's run, but also Rachel Pollack's run, and Omar Francia, just to name a few of the artists. Let me see what else we can show here, like this whole 3D world. So, it's kind of artwork like this that you're going to be seeing throughout the third act. There is an afterword by Gerard Way that I strongly suggest reading after you read the book. And then some variant covers back here, including one by Brian Boland. Love that. So, does it still make sense without the Milk Wars? Yeah, absolutely it does. It would have been nice to have those, I think it was a 5-issue crossover or 5-issue event in here, and it doesn't feel like it's like, I didn't even talk about Lotion. You could be surprised. But it doesn't feel like it's less complete. It just would have been nice, and you feel more like a completist, like, oh, I've read completely everything. But I do, if you enjoy this, I do strongly suggest going out and finding the Milk Wars trade paperback before that goes out of print and becomes super rare. And then we have a little bit of personal data back here on some of the characters, some sketches, and the Doom Patrol bio back here with Gerard Way and Nick Derington, and Niles. Now, as far as the build of the book, It has 522 pages, and it is glued binding. It's built like the Tom King Batman Deluxe Editions, like the last two books, volumes 5 and 6. So it's got this matte paper. So they don't use glossy paper for this. It's just this matte paper that they're using. Let me show you just the way that it lays over towards the front of the book whenever you have a spread page like this. You have to hold it down to kind of get everything in there. Well, there we go. That's better. But yeah, that's it. It was really nice to see a lot of returning characters. And like I said, even though it's part of the Young Animal line, I still think that it fits into the continuity of Doom Patrol Vertigo years and post-Vertigo years. I think, honestly, the only thing that was kind of not acknowledged was the New 52 era. Because I think the last thing it might acknowledge is the Keith Giffen stuff. So yes, all of this takes place after, if you have the Omnis, if you have the Grant Morrison Omnibus, if you have the Rachel Pollack Omnibus, the John Byrne Omnibus, it takes place after that. So this is during pretty much the rebirth era of DC Comics. But that's it. That, as they say, is that. If you're interested in purchasing this book, don't forget to check out our sponsor, cheapgraphicnovels.com, your online home for graphic novels and collected editions up to 50% off cover price. They have excellent shipping and prompt and helpful service. Check out their bargain deals for up to 90% off cover price. And don't forget that CGN also takes pre-orders. That way you don't miss out on the hottest releases. And they are currently running a special promotion for you Minties. If you're a first-time customer, after receiving your order confirmation email, reply back to that email and let them know Near Mint Condition sent you their way. They will then apply a free shipping promotional credit to your next order in the US. Cheap Graphic Novels, your source for the hottest books with the kind of deep discount, quality shipping, and customer service that will keep you coming back for more. And that was the content, the page count, and build of this deluxe edition. Let me know in the comments down below if you are a fan of Doom Patrol and you haven't read Gerard Way's run, what your favorite run on Doom Patrol is, if you watched the HBO show, which was freaking excellent. If you've read this and this is your first taste of Doom Patrol, what you think about it, or if you are going completely blind, whether it's Gerard Way that brought you in here or Doom Patrol, and you've never read a Doom Patrol comic or a Gerard Way comic. So I would love to know those comments down below. If you have any questions, leave them down below. Smash that like button on the way out. Everyone stay healthy and safe out there. Much love.